My beloved sisters and brothers, many of us are waiting for Allah to change our situation, our homes, our relationships, our hearts, our pain. We say, "Why Allah change my life?" while holding tightly to the very habits, thoughts and sins that keep us stuck. We ask for light, yet we refuse to move away from the shadows, and Allah, out of His mercy, answers us with a principle, not a shortcut, that He does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. This is not a punishment, it is an invitation to dignity, responsibility and hope. My beloved sisters and brothers, the change Allah is waiting for is not perfection, it is direction. It begins the moment you choose sincerity over excuses, repentance over delay, effort over comfort. When your heart turns honestly toward Allah, when your intentions soften, when your priorities realign, the help of Allah begins to move toward you in ways you never imagined. Change your doing into action. Change your habits into acts of worship. Change your heart's direction and watch how Allah changes everything else. Allah does not begin by changing what surrounds you. He begins by changing what is inside you, because the heart is the command center of the soul, and every action, reaction, and decision flows quietly from it. Many people look at their lives and feel trapped by circumstances, by people, by past mistakes, by unanswered due, and they assume that change must come from the outside first. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom, teaches us that real transformation does not start with events. It starts with intentions, with awareness, with the subtle inner shifts that no one sees except Him. When the heart changes its direction, the entire life begins to realign, even if the outer world appears the same for a while. This is why two people can go through the same hardship and emerge completely different, one bitter and one softened, one distant from Allah and one closer than ever, because the difference was never the test itself, but what happened inside the heart during the test. The heart is where sincerity lives, and sincerity is what Allah looks at before actions, before results, before outcomes. A person may look unchanged on the outside, still struggling, still waiting, still hurting, yet if the heart has turned back to Allah with honesty, humility, and truth, then the greatest change has already begun. Allah does not rush this process because hearts are not machines, they are gardens, and gardens need time, patience, and consistent care. When a heart shifts from blaming others to taking responsibility, from delaying repentance to seeking forgiveness, from complaining to trusting, Allah begins to open doors that were never forced open before. Sometimes the door opens inward before it ever opens outward, and that inward opening is often the most powerful mercy a servant can receive. Many people want Allah to remove the pain, but Allah wants to remove what the pain came to fix. The pain stays until the lesson is learned, until the heart softens, until arrogance dissolves, until dependence on creation is replaced with dependence on the Creator. When a person changes how they see Allah, how they see themselves, and how they see their purpose, their entire reality begins to shift quietly. They may still wake up to the same house, the same problems, the same responsibilities, but something inside them has settled. Their reactions change, their patience deepens, their prayers feel heavier with meaning, and their silence becomes filled with trust. This inner change is not dramatic or loud, but it is real, and Allah loves it deeply. Allah knows that lasting change cannot be built on emotion alone. Motivation fades, excitement settles, but intention rooted in the heart remains. That is why Allah focuses on what is within you, because when the heart is aligned, actions follow naturally without force. A person who truly changes inside no longer needs to be chased toward good, they are drawn to it. Their choices become more mindful, their sins feel heavier, their worship feels more intimate. Even when they fall forward, not away, because the direction of their heart is set. Allah values this direction more than flawless performance, because consistency with sincerity is beloved to Him. Sometimes Allah delays changing the outer situation because He is still shaping the inner strength needed to carry the blessing. Not every heart can hold ease without forgetting, and not every soul can manage relief without becoming distant. Allah protects His servants by refining them first, teaching them patience, humility, and gratitude before giving them what they ask for. When a heart learns to trust Allah in difficulty, it will trust Him even more in ease. This is why inner change is not a punishment, it is preparation. Allah is not withholding, He is refining, and the refinement happens quietly, often painfully, but always with purpose. When you begin to change what is within you, your relationship with Allah transforms. Dua stops being a list of demands and becomes a conversation filled with surrender. Worship stops being a routine and becomes a refuge. Obedience stops feeling heavy and begins to feel protective. Even your understanding of hardship shifts because you no longer see it as rejection, but as redirection. This internal shift brings peace that cannot be explained by circumstances alone. It is the peace of knowing that Allah sees your effort, even when the world does not see results yet. Allah changes hearts before He changes lives, because lives are temporary, but hearts are eternal. The condition of the heart determines the quality of this life and the next. A heart attached to Allah can survive loss, delay, and disappointment without breaking, while a heart attached to outcomes collapses when things do not go as planned. This is why Allah invites you inward first. He asks you to clean what no one else can see, to correct intentions that are hidden, to let go of habits that poison the soul, and to replace them with trust, repentance, and sincerity. This is not easy work, but it is the most rewarding work, because Allah Himself becomes the witness to your effort. When the heart changes, even small actions become heavy in value. A quiet prayer, a private repentance, a sincere tear, a moment of restraint, all of it becomes powerful in the sight of Allah. These unseen changes build a foundation that no storm can shake. The world may not applaud you, but Allah responds in ways you cannot imagine. He sends ease into your chest before He sends solutions into your life. He strengthens you before He relieves you. He teaches you to stand before He changes what you are standing in. Inner change also reshapes how you see people. You become less reactive, less defensive, less consumed by comparison. You begin to understand that everyone is fighting their own unseen battles. Forgiveness becomes easier, boundaries become clearer, and your self-worth becomes rooted in Allah rather than approval. This is the quiet confidence that comes from a heart aligned with its purpose. You stop begging the world to treat you better because you know Allah is taking care of you in ways that matter more. Allah's promise is true, but His timing is perfect. When you change what is within yourself, you are not forcing Allah's hand, you are aligning yourself with His wisdom. The change does not always come as you expect, but it always comes as you need. Sometimes it comes as strength instead of relief, clarity instead of comfort, patience instead of answers. And sometimes the biggest miracle is that the thing that once broke you no longer has power over you. The heart that turns sincerely toward Allah never turns back empty. Even if the outer world remains heavy, the inner world becomes lighter. Fear softens into reliance, anxiety settles into trust, and uncertainty becomes surrender. This is the beginning of true transformation. When Allah sees a servant changing inwardly, choosing Him repeatedly in small, quiet ways, He takes that effort and multiplies it beyond measure. The unseen shifts before the seen, the internal before the external, the heart before the life. Because Allah does not rush what He intends to last a moment, a servant takes one sincere step toward self-correction, repentance, and effort for the sake of Allah. The doors of divine help begin to unlock, not always loudly, not always immediately, but with certainty and precision that only Allah controls. Sincerity is powerful because it shifts the relationship between the servant and their Lord. It turns the heart from entitlement to humility, from expectation to surrender, from waiting to moving. Allah does not ask you to reach the destination alone. He asks you to take the first honest step, and that step itself becomes a signal to the heavens that this heart is ready to be helped. Even when that step feels small, shaky, or imperfect, Allah values its direction more than its strength. Many people delay change because they are waiting to feel ready, motivated, or confident. But readiness is not what unlocks Allah's help, willingness is. A heart that admits its weakness, its struggle, its inconsistency, and still turns toward Allah is more beloved than a heart that pretends strength while remaining distant. Repentance is not just leaving a sin, it is returning to Allah with awareness and humility. The moment that return happens sincerely, Allah responds, because Allah loves to forgive more than the servant loves to be forgiven. That response may come as inner relief, clarity, or renewed strength before any external change appears, but it is real and it is intentional. When a servant chooses effort for the sake of Allah, even if that effort is slow, Allah takes responsibility for the outcome. This is the mercy of divine partnership. You move your heart and actions toward Allah, and Allah moves the unseen toward you. Barakah enters time, strength enters weakness, and guidance enters confusion. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable, not because the burden disappeared, but because Allah increased your capacity to carry it. This is how divine help often arrives, quietly expanding your chest rather than instantly changing your situation. Sincere effort realigns priorities. When Allah becomes the reason behind change, rather than fear, people, or pressure, the heart stabilizes. You stop changing to prove something and start changing to please the one who already knows you. This removes anxiety from the process. Growth no longer feels like a performance, but an act of worship. Even setbacks lose their power to discourage because the heart understands that Allah looks at consistency, not perfection. Each return after a fall strengthens the relationship rather than weakens it. Allah opens the unseen in response to effort that no one else witnesses. A servant may struggle silently, resisting a habit, controlling a tongue, guarding a gaze, showing patience where anger once lived. These private battles are heavy in the sight of Allah. When effort is sincere and unseen, Allah's help is often unseen as well, working behind the scenes, protecting you from harm you never realize, redirecting outcomes you never notice, preparing ease before you even ask for it. Divine help does not always announce itself, but its impact reshapes your life slowly and deeply. Repentance softens the heart, and a softened heart becomes a place where guidance settles. Many people want Allah's help without wanting Allah's guidance, but the two come together. When a servant sincerely turns away from what displeases Allah, Allah replaces that space with something better, sometimes peace, sometimes wisdom, sometimes discipline, sometimes clarity. The soul becomes more sensitive to right and wrong, and this sensitivity itself is a form of divine assistance. It keeps you from paths that would have harmed you and nudges you toward paths you never planned but desperately needed. Effort for the sake of Allah is not always visible progress. Sometimes it looks like restraint, silence, patience, or waiting without complaint. These forms of effort are heavy and exhausting, yet deeply honored by Allah. When a servant chooses restraint over reaction, trust over panic, obedience over desire, they are declaring that Allah's pleasure matters more than immediate comfort. This declaration opens doors of divine help because it aligns the heart with truth. Allah supports hearts that choose Him when it costs them something. Divine help often arrives in stages. First, Allah strengthens the heart, then He clarifies the mind, then He shifts the environment. Many people miss the first two stages because they are only looking for the third. But when the heart is strengthened and the mind is clear, the servant is no longer the same person, even if the surroundings are unchanged. This internal shift allows the servant to recognize opportunities, make better decisions, and respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Allah's help is not limited to changing situations. It includes transforming how you navigate them. Sincere effort also attracts support from places you never expected. Allah places people in your life at the right time, removes others without explanation, and redirects paths that once felt fixed. These changes are part of divine help, even when they feel uncomfortable. Allah knows what and who you need to grow, heal, and remain guided. When you choose Allah sincerely, He chooses what is best for you, even when it conflicts with what you wanted. Trust grows when the servant realizes that Allah's plan is not against them, it is protecting them. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are trying for Allah. Even when results are delayed, the heart rests in the knowledge that effort itself is rewarded. This removes desperation from do and replaces it with hope. The servant no longer asks with impatience, but with certainty. They know Allah sees every step, every tear, every internal struggle, and that nothing sincere is ever wasted. This certainty itself is a form of divine help, anchoring the heart during waiting. When a servant commits to self-correction, Allah commits to guidance. When a servant commits to repentance, Allah commits to forgiveness. When a servant commits to effort, Allah commits to support. This is the balance of the relationship between the Creator and the creation. Allah does not burden the servant with results. He asks only for sincerity and effort. The rest unfolds according to His wisdom. This understanding brings peace because the servant stops carrying what was never theirs to carry. Divine help also comes as protection from returning to what once harmed you. Old temptations lose their appeal. Old habits feel heavy. Old paths feel distant. This is not loss, it is mercy. Allah removes the sweetness of what displeases Him from a heart that sincerely wants Him. In its place, He places contentment and self-respect. This internal protection is one of the greatest forms of help because it preserves faith quietly and consistently. The moment you choose Allah sincerely, the unseen begins to move. Angels are assigned, paths are redirected, and hearts are prepared. You may not feel it immediately, but the shift has already begun. Allah's help does not rush, but it never misses. It arrives at the moment it will benefit you most, not the moment you demand it. When effort is sincere and intention is pure, divine help becomes inevitable, unfolding gently, steadily, and with purpose that only Allah fully knows